Limited time today. I'm pouring a drink.
Yeah, let's do it.
I need a little more excitement from you.
Woo! I hear those sleigh bells ringling, ting, ting, tingling too. Come on, it's lovely weather for a sleigh ride together with you. Come on, get a little bit more than that.
That's what I.
Come on, what are we drinking? Come on, it's lovely weather for a sleigh ride together with
Calumet? Is that how you said it?
Yeah, it is. Oh, 16. Calumet 16. Oh, hey, this is my cup.
Yeah, you got your cup. I got my cup. This is one we got from Alyssa for congratulations for opening up the Yukon store. It's a pretty expensive bottle.
That's right.
Yeah.
It smells nice. Banana on the nose. Pause. Ooh. Smell it. It's giving me banana. Bananas Foster. I feel way more confident to just spout bullshit now whenever I'm sniffing snuff. Well, even with Jance, he was just like, it smells like what it smells like to you. And I'm like,
Yeah, and then I said something. I was like, it smells, I feel like I get hints of tree bark. And he's just like, oh, you fucking idiot.
I paid him to do that.
I'm like,
Oh,
no.
Also, congrats to Jance. Since the podcast, store is reopened, so make sure and go and see him.
I think he's been slammed. I think he's been busy. I see him posted in different bourbon groups all the time now too. Like I think he got a lot of support when he opened back up. We got this. Alyssa got this bottle from Jance.
Yep.
So, yeah.
I remember her getting it.
Do you?
Mm-hmm.
And bringing it to Yukon it was you, me, and Will when we opened. And
well, I remember I had gone up there and he was talking to me about it.
Sorry.
Do you smell the banana, or is that just me?
I think I do. It's got like a sweetness, like
almost like artificial banana. You know what I mean? Like a banana,
like a Runts.
Yeah. What's the other one? Isn't there another candy that's like that?
Laffy Taffy.
What's the other banana candy? Yeah, it's Laffy Taffy. I get that. Yeah, like banana Laffy Taffy. Or like, is Runts the hard candy? Like isn't there another one that's like that?
A hard candy?
Yeah.
That's a banana?
Yeah. That's banana shaped, or is that Runts? That's Runts?
That's Runts, yeah. That's what anytime I taste anything of artificially banana, that's what I think of as Runts. Laffy Taffy's a good one too, though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's got that, like, that very specific artificial banana. We made banana pudding with vanilla pudding for a Thanksgiving dessert thing, and it still tasted like banana pudding. So I am convinced that the only part of banana that tastes like banana pudding that tastes like banana is the bananas that you put in there. Because we just had a couple bananas in there, and it was like, it tastes like banana pudding. And I'm like, there was no banana in here, minus like a few sliced bananas. And it very much was just like, still just like, very good, but when I say run of the mill, I don't mean it was bad. Just like it tasted like banana pudding, but it was vanilla pudding. So there's that for you folks.
Did you blow the lid off of big banana or big pudding?
Pause. Pulling the lid off big banana. Big banana pudding. We're here. I don't even think banana pudding has any. It's just vanilla pudding with a banana on it, and they charge you 3 more cents probably.
And then you see the label and you think banana.
When you just see it, and then it's like make it yellow, and it's like, you have a but you realize banana pudding really just tastes like putting whipped cream, Nilla wafers in a couple.
There's a princess outside.
Oh my Lanta, we're gonna be hello. Yeah. We almost had a break in.
Yeah, that would have been scary. There is a mom taking her kids out of the car, and a girl in a princess costume just came in and looked in our window.
We have very mirrored windows, so we see people checking themselves out all the time.
Yeah, it's really fun when someone's got a wedgie or a booger.
Ooh, or a wedgie booger.
Dude, that's the worst.
Dude, I regret saying that. Anyway, what episode is this?
83.
That's crazy.
That is a lot of episodes, man. This will be a quick one. We had to do a few quick ones recently. And this will be But I think the big thing is we've been consistent about them, you know?
Yeah, still knocking them out.
Right.
Giving the people what they want. Exposing big bananas. Wait.
It's probably some of our audience wants that, but.
The person who kept commenting about your feet.
They want to see Big Banana exposed.
All right. Bragging about it.
But yeah, man, I feel like we're still making time. What was this? Like a statistic that like the majority of podcasts don't make it to episode 3 or something like that.
We've done that.
We did that. Check.
We made it.
Now there might be another statistic that certain amount of episodes don't have any listeners after episode 3. I don't know if we've checked that one.
Yeah, I haven't looked in a while.
Is anybody out there?
Even if there's not.
We're here. We're doing it way past. We're on 83. And this will be our last episode of the year. Christmas time.
That's
New
right.
Year's. Yeah. We have one. We would potentially have one more scheduled. But listen, I won't be out of town. So,
yeah. Right.
Yeah. So I feel like this is a good time to maybe recap on the year. Look at everything that's happened.
Yeah.
Reminisce.
It's been a crazy year.
It has been, man.
It has been a crazy, crazy year.
Yeah.
Good stuff, though.
Yeah. I feel like, well, I've got a thought, but I want to hear yours first.
Oh.
How would you summarize this year? How would you summarize into like the shortest sentence possible?
Time out. I love my wife. She's the greatest thing in the world. But my wife, Laurel, is famous for thinking of an answer to a question she has and then asking me and then being upset that I don't have an answer when it's like, you've been thinking about this for a week.
Yeah, like, I have mine. Do you not have yours?
Yeah, right. She'll be like, what is your favorite specific memory about us that it happened on a Tuesday and, when it was sunny out? And I'll be like, I have no idea. And she's like, come on, think. And I'll be like, you clearly have one in mind. Why don't you share yours? No, I want you to go first. And I'm like, well, okay, how long have you been thinking about this? Like, right. Like, so you've had this on your mind for a while.
The memory probably came first, and then the details.
Right, the detailed question.
Yeah, the detailed question came from the memory.
And I get it. I'm sure I've done this a million times also, but it always cracks me up where I'll be like, you just go for it. You tell me yours while I think. Because
that would work.
I haven't met this parameters of a question in my head before.
I'm gonna hopefully giving not like too tight of parameters here. But if you were to summarize like 2025 compared to all the other years where I think we've had years of hardship, I think we've had years of a lot of growth, years of catch up, years of learning, years of adjustments. I can answer first if you want to, but you can go first.
Work related, you mean, or life
related? Yeah. Let's do work, and then if you have a life one too, you can do life.
Let's see, work.
I don't have a life one because I don't really do anything outside.
Did you have a baby this year?
Yeah, that's my life year. My life one is year of baby.
Yeah, right. Okay, you give me your store one first.
My store one, I think, is the year of continued education, where I've talked about this a lot before, but I think it just keeps hitting me over the head this year. Is we learned what it took to grow to be a small business or a success. I'd say a successful small business. Right. But I think we've got really, really, really big goals. And I think we're learning that to become even just a medium-sized business, there are so many other things that we have to learn, man.
Whole nother set of rules, man.
Right. And I think there's a lesson even within that of like, we might grow to be a medium-sized business, and there's going to be it's going to be a whole different ball game from getting to medium to big. Yeah. So.
Yeah, you realize, why there's not a whole lot more, but you realize why there are, one-off burger shops. You got ones that, you got your like, then you have your like Freddy's or whatever, or like even smaller probably than that, than like Freddy's, where it's like, you've got like I don't know, Louis for a OKC local thing where, like there's Louis around. There's a number of them. They're obviously
like
a very successful place.
Like a medium-sized chain in the
right.
In the
but
area.
if, you live in, San Antonio, what the hell's a Louis?
Right.
And then, and then there's Freddy's, which is, a big small or small big.
Yeah.
And then there's McDonald's, and it's just like you realize that everywhere. Yeah, right. You realize that, there's, and I think here's the thing too, is I think there's positive and negatives to both, like, or to all of them. You know what I mean? Where it's like, you understand why at some places people don't want to get to that. They don't want to continue to expand past that. And they're like, that. Hey, we're actually really comfortable in a positive way. Like we're doing good, and not, I feel like comfortable can get a negative connotation, but it's just like things are good. We like where we're at. We like the way the business runs.
I think there's some people too that like may not even necessarily realize that they're like holding themselves in that position. But big shout out, like a lot of respect for people that are like, hey, our business is this size. We really like it this size. We don't really want to be bigger. So like actually recognize that. Or I think a lot of people would say like, I want to be bigger, but like what it actually takes and what that actually looks like when you get there is like, I think they subconsciously maybe know they don't want to be there,
right?
And just feel maybe that's just like kind of like pressure to want to get bigger, or maybe that's just how they've always operated to like try and be growing. So
I think it's like, dude, you start thinking about, again, we've got 4 locations and 20 whatever employees. Bro, the fact that like a McDonald's cheeseburger tastes like a McDonald's cheeseburger in Los Angeles or in Miami, Florida is fucking bananas.
It's you start to realize how impressive that is.
It's crazy.
The quality control, and again, we're talking about like obviously just hamburgers. But like you got to think like sourcing, like production, distribution. It's like that's all food and things that like expire and like and start to go bad. Well, yeah, good point. Yeah, I've seen those videos.
That's McDonald's secret
for real though, man. Like that's probably
how
part
much
of the reason
money
how
do
you
they
get that.
save from having like ultra preservative like food.
So much.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
It's probably like McDonald's couldn't be McDonald's without it.
That's what I was thinking, is like you can't have it taste the same, on each side of the country.
Or even grow as big as it is, like any of those things without like that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And that's an interesting question, right? Because then I think you start to, okay, if Triad were to get to size of McDonald's, what are the preservatives that have to be put in place? Like, what are the things you have to be, what do you have to accept is going to happen, or else you can't get there? That is the barrier to entry to being as big as McDonald's is the preservatives, right?
Yeah.
Like there is just no other way around that.
I think there's some that like I think there's some things that we're starting to kind of, I don't know, test our boundaries a little bit on things that like, we're like, man, we really don't want to do this. But like you simply can't grow to be any bigger unless you do that.
Right.
And I think we're finding ways to do those things within our morals and within our like basic like business model. Like we haven't gone outside of that. But yeah, I think we're learning, we can't. Again, what got us here won't get us there. So you mentioned that, like, some people are comfortable with a smaller business, and like, I don't know, I've never like related to that as much as I do now. 'Cause like, dude, with even just 4 stores, like nowhere near some of these fast food chain restaurants, or like even just like regional chains, man. Like we're not even like touching that.
Literally today I've probably passed, even like counting ones I've passed twice. Like I've driven past probably 11 McDonald's.
Right. Yeah, dude.
Crazy.
It's thinking back to just operating one location was like, man, that was nice. And it's like, dude, there's an element of like, dude, it would where I've talked myself out of it a number of times. So it's like, dude, it would be nice to go back to that, but for so many reasons I don't want to.
Right.
But like dude, to think back of like, dude, it's it's me and a small group, and we're all running the store, and I'm taking customers and help running the day to day, and I've got some help, and we're all together. It's like, dude, like
you get why that
was
is
nice,
appealing,
man. It was nice.
No, for sure.
I've talked to Alyssa about this. I say I talked to Alyssa because I don't know if she talked back a whole lot. I was just kind of like word vomiting because I was like, man, like how cool, like it would be nice if like it was just me and Thomas and a few other close people. We were just running one store and we could all make a decent living. But then it was like, man, like I don't know, man. There's a lot of like big stressors now with a lot of locations. But at the same time, I do really like a lot of my day-to-days, especially now because tasks have been divvied up so much that I get to do things that I enjoy most. Building systems, I really, really, really do like. It's problem solving. I like being able to dedicate a lot of time and effort to marketing, even though there is a lot more to implement. Because like marketing at one location was like, we want to promote something. Okay, cool. Like post it on Facebook and put it on the counter at the store, right? But now we have to organize, do all the stores have enough inventory? Now we want to be sampling it at all stores. Okay, we have to prep all the employees on what to do and how to handle everything. And then we have to work with Ryan and get it like prepping our social media post and everything looks nicer. We're doing everything times 4, but yeah, it's a lot more work and can be a lot more stressful and a lot more room for error there of like what store didn't follow, step 12 of directions.
Right.
But I do really like watching that all kind of unfold and like and come and like fall into place and working on it too.
I'm suddenly very appreciative of my 3rd grade teacher that made us do that like write out clear instructions thing.
Dude.
Where it's like, okay, you making a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. Okay. Open jar of peanut butter, like set lid down, like place knife and peanut butter, and you like forgot to put the jar, like the one end, and so they like stick the handle into the peanut butter. And you're like, damn it!
Yeah, the teacher is like purposely like messing up everything,
right?
As it's going
like just following the directions, but yeah, I'm thinking still because I haven't technically answered, but my and this will probably sound worse than I mean it to, but this is the year of Thomas's gray sideburns. So we have a group in.
I like that.
We've got a group, and it's called Kevin's Gray Sideburns.
Welcome to the club.
And it's the group where Kevin's not in it, and a lot of times we just like take care of things or do whatever. And the point is like to keep Kevin's sideburns as colorful as possible. But I have.
You guys have maybe slowed down a little bit.
I have drastically noticed an increase in gray hair.
Dude, it's crazy, isn't it?
Uh-huh.
It's dude, mine legitimately started the year we came into business. Like I didn't notice any gray hairs, and then when we opened, it was probably in 2016. So our first full year of business is when I started noticing gray hairs.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. I think there's a legitimate correlation to that.
I think there is too.
The year Thomas's gray sideburns.
The year Thomas's gray sideburns, which is good. Hey, gray hair is a sign of wisdom.
Yeah, that's how I see it.
And I think like genuinely, if I'm creating an analogy or whatever there, like I do think it's one of those things where I think it's a year that we've learned a lot, and I think it's one of those things where. It's not like we haven't had years like this before, it's a different set of circumstances and different things and goods and, ups and downs, goods and bads, all that kind of stuff. But I think it's one of those things where I don't know if there's ever I think this is kind of how I've looked at it. And I don't look at it as like not a reason to not do things, but almost a reason to do things. But it is, we will never achieve what we want to achieve without having gray sideburns years. Like you have to take the knowledge and the sideburn, loss of hair that you get from these kind of years Like if you don't have that, like you'll never be strong enough to make it to where you want to make it. And, it's just one of those things where, there's times where, you want to be a good football team. Like you got to go through summer workouts or whatever it is, where it's just like, you don't get to have that unless you experience this. And
right.
It's one of those things where, obviously using that as like, hey, this is where what we're doing. And, there's been ups and downs and goods and bads, but there has been a lot to learn and, a lot of, things to kind of explore. And, but again, I think this is just one of those times where these like when we were smaller, it was like we had stressors then, and it's like those stressors became strengths. And I think that's like one of the things that happens in these kind of like formative times.
Things don't get easier; we just get better.
Right.
So
right.
We get stronger.
Yeah, and it's yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. The path to where not many people are is not easy.
Yeah, right. Yeah, you want to see people not on the trail. You want to go the trail less traveled. That's probably not the easy one.
Right. Yeah, you want a photo, in a spot where nobody else is taking a photo, or very few people have.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think that the realization of like, dude, it won't ever be easy forever. Like we never get to a point where it's just gonna be easy forever. And like you said, man, ups and downs. Cool part to all this is, dude, as a company, we're still gonna do more in sales than we did last year.
Right.
So,
and I think that's the key is like, there's at the hope of like making this sound better than we've probably made it sound so far. It's like everything's great.
Yeah.
Right. Like everything's great. You know what I mean? Like I'm still happy to come to work every day. And there's plenty of good things. But I think, it's just one of those things when you expand from 3 stores to 4 stores. I think that's something that I've like noticed. And maybe that's just because I don't have experience past it, but like that, I wonder where that line is of like substantial increase, right? It's like, store 1 to store 2 is a lot of like, I felt like a lot of building systems, a lot of like getting your things straight.
Yeah. Store
2 to store 3, it's like, okay, now it's like continuing to implement and, use those kind of systems that you've created and, tweak the things you need to tweak. But then there's like, I've felt like a substantial dial turn up on 4 stores.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's like, like something tells me store 5 is probably not much harder than 4.
Yeah.
What's the next big hump?
It's a hump. Yeah. 4 does seem like a hump, man. And it's,
it's a 10 or whatever, where it's like the real difference, again, the difference between 3 and 2 is like, there's definitely differences. But there's like,
I was still at all stores 1 to 2 times a week.
Yeah, like there's all those kind of things that make, and I think that's the thing is the 3 to 4. At 4, you officially don't have enough days in the week to be everywhere twice.
Right.
Like unless you're, and spending like substantial time.
Yeah, you can't. Yeah, where 3 you could do a 6-day week and spend like a full day at each store 2 times a week.
Right.
So.
And so I think that is like, I think that's definitely where that kind of happens. And so again,
you have to prioritize a little bit.
The same thing then happens at 5 and then happens at, I would imagine the next big one is probably 8 when it's like, you can't spend a full day, even in a full week, you can't spend 1 day at every store kind of thing. Like that becomes the next big, like, whoa, like, okay, here we go kind of thing.
Yeah. I think we're getting to the point where like, you talked about, store 2, us having to put in a lot of systems. I feel like we're now, especially because you can't be at each store 2 times a week now, or one person can't be at 2 stores twice a week now, is just getting people to follow the system.
Right. Well, what happens with that is a huge shift of responsibility.
Yeah.
A huge shift of responsibility where like, even at 3 stores, again, it's like you could spend 6 days and be everywhere twice. And that's a lot of influence, and that's a lot of like hands-on time that you can kind of like affect things. Where I feel like being at 4 and you kind of can't do that, especially with all the other tasks and things that come along with 4 stores, right? Like it becomes one of those where I'm really spending, like I've got a transfer day and I've got this day and I've got that day. There's all these things where it becomes like even more and more difficult to kind of like spend a ton of time. And so you have this, it becomes like really it's barely realistic to be at 1 store or like all 4 stores in a week, And so that's where I think like you then start to realize that, you're there for, how many hours are we open? 80?
It's like 78.
78, that's right. So it's like of 78 hours of a store being open in a week, I'm probably affecting 8 hours of that.
Yeah.
And like when you're affecting 8 hours of 78, you realize like how much you have to rely on the people who are there for half of those hours.
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense, man. I don't know if I ever really thought about that. Like being where we're at now and kind of being the shift is relying on others a lot more than we used to. Yeah. And I feel like this is where like we're needing managers to really step up and be managers,
100%.
Man. So
well, and ATs, which is our like assistant manager thing. Like we just did a whole AT training, like a whole 3-hour like presentation training thing with them where it's just like, hey guys, like, and I think that's the tough thing, right? Because I think from now on, it's a lot easier because when people come in, it's just like anything, right? They're like, when they don't know what they don't know in the sense of like, this is all they know from now on, right? Like anybody that like we have hired since 4 stores that get promoted, well, I think that they only understand that sense of responsibility has always been there, right? Hopefully, where, and this is not to speak badly about anybody because I think we've done a really good job of this, but I think where it is actually tough is changing the mindset of the people who did not have to be responsible for that into having to be responsible for that. It becomes that like I know what it was like. I was a big part of AT training. It was like how many people were here when Kevin and Alyssa were in the back of Quail, right? Well, now you have to be Kevin and Alyssa. Now you have to be that person. And that is a tough mental switch. And I think our ATs and our managers have done a good job of that. But that is a tough mental switch where we went from, in the way that I put it and the way I've talked about it, but the way I put it even in AT training is like, we used to be able to all be warm by one big fire, right? We used to have enough seats around the like one fire where it was just like, hey, we've got company buy-in, we got people excited, we've got, personal relationship with like the owner or higher ups, like people who are, been here for a long time or doing like important things. Like you have a personal relationship with those people. And what naturally occurs over time is more and more distance. And well, what's hard is it's really hard to keep people warm when they're that far from the fire.
Yeah.
And that's like a natural thing. Every business has to go through that, I'm sure.
Right.
And that's like, that's a natural occurrence. Again, like I can affect 8 hours of 78 hours. So now it becomes like, hey, we're going to have that fire still. And that obviously still exists. And there's going to be opportunities to sit around it. But now all 4 of these stores now has to create its own fire, its own sense of drive, its own sense of ownership, its own sense of like, even when I'm not feeling it, I'm going to do it for Noah because I really like Noah and he's my manager and he's done a really good job. Yeah. And he's gotten me excited about the company and he's gotten me excited about what the future holds and like what we can do. And if nobody takes on that, like outside track, because I feel like we're doing well, but if like nobody takes on that sense of responsibility, well, then you don't have a fire anymore. And then you end up with people who don't care. Yeah. You end up with people who aren't warm to the fire that the business is trying to provide, the sense of future, the sense of like responsibility, the ownership, all that kind of stuff. Like, well, again, like we have to be responsible now at each location because again, it's going to be one of those things where, someone in Norman or somebody at Edmond or whatever, it's like, well, they're not going to see all the things, like some of the other people have. And so I think that's like a challenging thing, but I think a super important thing though, because that is, I feel like, and who knows what I don't know, But it's like, that feels like the only way of like sustaining forward, of continuing to have the things and the buy-in and the people who are excited and see the future and want to work for any company for forever, is like, you have to get to that. Okay, here we are. Otherwise you just end up with like the shallow desire to want to help the company. It's just a job, which, like, you know, that's
what we tried to avoid. Yeah. That's I know we've talked about, you know, being close to the fire, and how when it was just one store, even two stores, you know, you got to be much closer to the fire, but now it's much further away, and you have to, you know, we're relying on managers and ATs and people at all these stores to, you know, build their own or stoke their own fire.
Right.
And that makes a lot of sense. Like, we've talked about that before, and I think that's a great analogy. I think the thing that's like clicking for me right now too is just like, is transitioning the people that came on when it was just one big fire and we were all really close to it. It's like, okay, like that's potentially almost a harder transition than if it were just all individual fires. But I think for that to happen, we would have had to have perfect systems and a perfect model right off the bat, which is just unrealistic if we want to own our own thing. Like, maybe if we, you know, bought into a franchise with those things.
Sure.
But yeah, I mean, I'm very much a learn on the job kind of guy. And so going into it, man, like, this is like how we've done things. There's a lot of trial and error. So it's, things weren't perfect right off the bat. So it's, you know, we've had to build these systems, and maybe that is what it is. It's like, you know, we have these systems in place, and the big struggle this year is just like making sure the checks and balances of making sure everybody's following the playbook, is transitioning those people from that old way of thinking into the new way of thinking. But like, the new way of thinking, I don't know if it's perfect or not. So,
well, and I think it's one of those things too, where I think the right way to put it is like, I don't even know if it was like from being imperfect to begin with. I think that there's no other way to do it at the beginning, right?
Right.
Because it's also like one of those things where like the excitement brought by the owner or the owners or like, you know, someone who's been around the whole time and like understands, like, that's the hottest fire you're ever going to have. Yeah. And so it's just like, how do you not utilize it? Like, that's probably your biggest strength. That's why you have like an Alfonso who like was ready to do what, like, was like running through brick walls kind of thing. Mm-hmm. And like, I think that's because it's so easy to be super warm next to that fire. Mm-hmm. The thing is it just becomes like, well, you start to realize that it's not that it's imperfect, but the point is, it's just like, you have to understand, I think, as a company, at least from my perspective now, is that like, that is a thing that is as strong as anything you'll ever have, but it is fleeting. And if you don't make adjustments to make sure to account for that, like, you're going to be sitting there and being like, why is no one bought in anymore? Yeah. Why does nobody give a shit? Like, why does nobody care anymore? And it's because you're relying on a thing, what got you here won't get you there kind of thing. Like, you're relying on this thing that was like probably the strongest power you had at the beginning, right? Into being like, okay, now we have to find a way to divvy this up. We have to find a way to like, you know, share this in a way that like makes sense.
How do we incentivize, you know, people building their own fires? And I do think that honestly, there is like some benefits to, like, I think there's like a little bit of a mindset change. And like, you know, I've heard from employees a number of times of like, man, you know, I feel like I got to work like with the whole team. I used to work with the whole team and like everybody was here, and now I'm on my own little island. And it's like, well, man, like, we're kind of all on our own little island.
Right.
It's like, if you may feel that way and like everybody else is together, but dude, we're all separate. Like, this is like, we have to remember, like, this is a part of growth and we have to adjust to that. Right. So like where, you know, you're not wrong. Like, this is what we wanted, right? Like you came on board wanting, especially like our, you know, our long-term people, is like, you wanted to be part of like a company that was growing a lot. Right. So,
well, and I think that's the big thing. I think that I think our timing is, you know, it probably will end up being better than we give ourselves credit for.
Yeah.
In the sense of like, that transition is, hey, you learned what it was like to be around that fire. Like, you have personal experience with it, recreate it, you know, as opposed to trying to like, hey, you've never even been to the fire. but make one. You've never seen a fire, but make one. You know what I mean? It's like, I think we're still in that sweet spot of like, we have the people who have all in all these roles who have been close to it and have seen it and understand kind of like,
they know the standard.
They understand what got them warm.
Yeah.
And that's the thing is, it's like, you know, how do you, this is going to be a stupid way of saying this, but it's like, how does a cold person know how to make somebody else warm? It's like, it doesn't work that way. I don't feel like.
But I think that, I guess the tough part to even like really double down on this analogy is like the people that were around the original fire weren't necessarily like, they know it and they've seen it and they've watched, you know, me build it. But it's like, I don't know that I can necessarily, and maybe I could have, I don't know. I haven't really thought this deep into it, but like, I don't know that I spent a lot of time teaching them how to build the fire though. Cause it's like, I'm the one building it. Like, you get to watch me build it, but like,
well, here's the other thing too, though. And I think like this is fully taking Triad out of this, like, a whole lot easier to sit next to a warm fire than it is to build one.
True.
You know what I mean? True. And I think that that's like one of the things too, where that's why it's so easy to reminisce on it. That's why it's so easy to like, oh, when we all used to work together, like we all got excited, everybody excited about it. And it's like, yeah, that is like a huge, that was a great time. But like, that's when, you know, but it's your turn to drive now. Like it's your turn to do this. And like that's a hugely important thing that I've been trying to, you know, and I think all companies again probably go through this, but that's been a huge thing of trying to explain to people. I mean, there's a huge part of AT. Like there was literally like a 30-minute conversation about building your own fire, like during AT training, where it's just like, guys, you are responsible for this. And if you think you're not, your store will not do what you want it to do. If you like think for a second, like, oh, somebody else is responsible for that. Even I don't think it's a conscious thought, but it's just like, you know, you have somebody like me. I'll use myself as an example. It would be super easy for me to sit here and be like, how do you guys not care enough? Like, how does anybody not care? Like, because I can sit here and through my experience of like seeing the fire be built, and you know, especially with you, Chad and Vince, like, you know, these people that I love all of you, like this whole thing where it's just like, it would be very easy for me to be like, I don't understand how you guys aren't warm. Well, yeah, I still have a foot next to the fire where I'm looking at everybody else who's, you know, 100 feet away and be like, you guys aren't warm right now? What's wrong with you?
Right.
As opposed to being like, oh shit, I need to pick up a log and take it over there.
Right.
Like that's what needs to happen. And so I think that is a huge part of just growth in general, is understanding that like, hey, you know, sure, it was nice when we didn't have to have other people, like it was nice when you didn't have to be responsible for this, you know, or I'm sure if you're other businesses where it's like, I'm sure that was a nice time, but it's one of those things where like you want to be warm again, build your own fire. Like that's the thing. That's a requirement for a leadership position.
And I think we've even seen some people that have been around for a long time and they're working with a bunch of people that haven't been and weren't there when it was, you know, one big fire, and they get a little frustrated that, I think, like you said, they're like, well, why is nobody else like warm right now? Like nobody's like, you know, as gung ho as I am. Like nobody's like holding the standard like I am. Like what is happening? And it's just like, hey, like they've never stood around the big fire before, but you have.
Right.
So like you have to now build a fire where you're at. So well,
and it's easy again, and I think like we do a good job about this, and I think like our team has been good, but I'm sure other people have probably experienced, you know, more negative side effects, where it's just like, you also can't just like yell somebody into being warm, you know, like you gotta like as you're sitting there like next to the fire and you're like shouting back to the people 100 feet away from it, being like, what the fuck is wrong with you? How the hell are you warm? Like get your shit together or I'm going to fire you. Like,
dude, I think that I feel like it's a combination of two big things too, because, and I think this works well, hopefully. Maybe I'm just a romantic, but I feel like the two things, maybe our two strengths, or like our two focuses right now, is for you, obviously you're spending a lot of time with like ATs and like stores and just people in general and like building their fires and building the excitement. It's like, I think that's a great analogy. I think you're really just scratching the surface on like, how do we do that?
Yeah.
And where I feel like for me, that was kind of like a big missing part to like my focus, is just like, people aren't doing what is required. You know, they're not necessarily holding the standard that was held at Quail Springs when it was just me and a few other people. And for me, it's been, okay, well, we don't have a detailed enough playbook, which I think are both very valid points, but I think both are not necessarily super effective on their own. Where you said, I'm like, you know, I might be in a spot where it's just like, I'm, you know, writing down how to make a PB&J.
Right.
And I'm getting as detailed as possible about it. And I'm like, I'm even making it a better peanut butter and jelly sandwich. Like I'm adding ingredients, I'm making it more detailed. I'm like, I'm systems, detail. But I'm potentially the person that's yelling at people that don't give a fuck. So they're like,
right,
I'm not making the sandwich. So like, where I feel like on your side of things, you know, without the systems, it's potentially like, we need to get excited, and not that you're only focusing on that, right. But if that is the area of focus right now, it couples well, because that on its own potentially is just like, we need to be excited. We need to grow the business. Like, let's grow the business, guys. And everybody's gung ho about it, but it's like, okay, well, how?
Right.
So,
well, and I think it's just like one of those things too, where again, like, you know, especially and I think this is potentially where I think some people have missteps, and I'm sure we've had missteps with it too. But I think where people like really misstep is exactly what you're saying, is like if you just have one or the other, like if you don't have that like fire building concept, right, and you just have more and more detailed playbook, it's just a more and more difficult playbook.
Right.
It's just asking more and more. Mm-hmm. And so the problem then becomes, is it's just like, well, if they didn't give a fuck when, you know, it was simple, they're definitely not going to care when it's complex, you know? And I think that that's like a really important like realization that you have to, like, everybody in these situations has to have, is like, if you aren't stoking that fire or building new ones or garnering excitement around, like, again, like, I will wholeheartedly say this. I used to, when I worked at Staples, when I was 15, 16 years old, I used to fake doing work. Like, I used to literally like sit there. I had a buddy who worked there. His name was Andrew. And like, we would literally just talk. And then whenever somebody would be coming by, we would just start touching things on the wall and look like we were counting or organizing. And I did that every day for like a year. And so like the whole thing was like, but I don't care.
Yeah.
I don't care about Staples. I don't care about.
They probably had a super detailed playbook.
Right. And it's one of those things where it's just like they did. And it was one of those things too, where it's like such a detailed playbook that like I'm looking at two identical pallets, and if I open this one, that's my job. If I open that one, I'm potentially fired because I'm not supposed to touch that one. You know what they label on those, so you know which one's which? Nothing. Right? And so again, it's like, you're like, Staples was asking me to be ultra detail oriented as if I gave two fucks. Mm-hmm. And again, especially at 16, like if I worked there now, it would be probably a bit of a different story, but it's like, at the same time, it's like, I don't care. Mm-hmm. And I probably don't even have the capacity to care in this way. Mm-hmm. And so like, that's just like, that is such a hard thing, man. And I get it. 'Cause like, from a perspective, just like creating more and more detailed things in order to have it be better and better, you're like, well, this is, again, people aren't even following it. Like, I don't know. And of course they're not, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And so I think that's the hardest part, is like, if you're like, sticking with this weird analogy, if you're like freezing cold and you're like, hey, you know, but I want you to do this super intricate thing, and no part of that is get next to the fire and get warm, you're gonna be like, I don't care about anything else right now, mm-hmm. besides the fact that I'm cold, and like, I'm not gonna be motivated for anything mm-hmm. until I felt some warmth.
Right.
And
right,
so
right.
like, it's one of those where if you put the plan before the fire, then it's like you're gonna have people who aren't gonna care enough to do it. Like,
right.
You might have this great motivating meeting, or somebody, not just you, I don't mean, but it's like, it's a great motivating meeting, me, whoever, like any business, you have this great motivating meeting about how we're going to do this and then we're going to do this. It can be a perfectly detailed plan with everything. And then like literally that meeting can end and everybody can walk out and be like, I'm not going to fucking do that. That's too much work.
Yeah.
Seriously. Especially if it's usually more work to be more effective. And so then it's just like, I'm not going to fucking do that. Absolutely not. You don't pay me enough for that. You don't.
Right.
I don't have enough. Why would I do that? I got enough shit to do already.
Yeah. I will say I am very conscious of like, this is like maybe a little off topic, but I'm always super, super conscious of like how much we ask of employees to do with customers. Like not in the sense of like just in general, because just from a base level, we ask for a lot of detail when it comes to customer service. And like, we're asking them to do a lot of things to make it a special experience. So anytime we're doing like promotional stuff, that's like, just a temporary thing, my goal is to always make it to where the employee has to do almost nothing, if nothing.
Right.
Because it's like, I don't want to add anything. Like we get those stuff like in between customers because, they've got downtime. But while they're taking a customer, I don't want to add it. I would rather focus on, making sure that we're following the playbook.
Right.
So I will say, man, I do think we have, dude, especially since you've stepped into the GM role, I do think obviously we have put a lot of effort into that. I do think we've made a big difference, man. I think that especially being in store, which we're spending Saturday mornings at the store. Actually, it's Liz has been joining with us, but it was just me and Riley this last Saturday morning, and which was honestly really nice. We grabbed some breakfast from home. We hung out at the little diet table on the side at Quail Springs. Ate some breakfast. Got to talk with Mason and Harley, and customers were in pretty much the whole time that we were there. So we were, getting to talk with customers a little bit. Like she would run around a little bit, and I'd help out where I could, and we restock, converse with customers. Get to talk with Mason and Harley. It was a good time. We were there for a couple hours. Man. Mason being with us for a little over a year, Harley being pretty new with us, and going through, I think, a little bit different training. Mason going through, obviously, like some of like the AT training and continued education. Dude, listening to them talk to customers, I'm not going to lie. I used to be a lot more stressed listening to our employees take customers because I think they've always done a good job. It was still one of those where it was like, man, I don't feel like, I don't know if we're putting in as much effort as we need to be, talking and working with them. I don't know if we're, pulling out all the stops that we can, or we're not utilizing all, the samples and the, and some of the strategies that we use to really go above and beyond for people. But watching Mason and Harley, this will be a little shout out for them. Man, it felt like, it's like, dude, you guys like, I feel like you guys are doing everything that I would do with these customers. Right. And that was super gratifying, man. And I hope that they speak for the rest of the company and the employees. I think I've seen big differences over the last year. I've seen a big change. But
super funny too is, arguably speaking, Harley and Mason at like their time of hire were our quietest employees.
100%. Out of our 20 people that work here, they're probably at their time of hire were the quietest too.
Like quietest people we've ever had.
Yeah. Dude, they no silent moments with customers, man. They were constantly and like comfortably like working with these people, mixing up samples, letting them try things, walking them through different options. Super helpful. Cool. So it was cool to see them doing so well with customers. So
I think it's one of those things too, where I think it's like, I think we're finally coming full circle, right? Where it's kind of like we've had gaps, and I think we've finally, not that we've filled all those gaps, it's probably not the right way to put this, but I think like we finally made a complete circle on that, where it's just like, we went from being like, hey, this is our strength. And then it's like, hey, we're kind of like, hey, we're getting further from that fire, We're
replicating.
Right. And expanding. And it becomes one of those things where we're starting to see steps down in certain situations. And then it's like, I think with like how much have we been working on this for the last year?
I was going to say, dude, I feel like it's like, I remember when we first implemented like customer service evals, and it was like, that's going to be the thing that keeps us, keeps our standard high with our customer service. And that, thinking back to that, that's hilarious. That was the tip of the iceberg.
Yeah.
We did like 100 other things.
Oh yeah.
To uphold the standard.
Like I gave a 3-hour presentation.
Yeah.
A 3-hour, like notebook, pen, bring this. We're off site. We're off campus. We're in a conference room somewhere. And we are, 10
minutes?
I spoke like, I felt like I had a sinus infection by the time I was done. Like one of those where it's like I have been talking, like, and granted, like other people were interjecting into own stories, and huge shout out to Preston for being there too and helping, because he has a ton of really good experience with that stuff. And the best part about having Preston there and why I was really for it too is like the yin and yang of how we handle customers is very different. And it's a good dynamic of like how there is a bunch of different ways to do this. I'm not teaching you to replicate me. I'm teaching you to create your own. And that's like a super important aspect to it. But here's some like really good tips and tricks. And here are the pillars of things. You know, we have 9 pillars of a customer interaction. Those 9 pillars, you have to understand that each one is just as important as the next. And if you take any of them off, it's like, well, we start to really dip. But it's one of those things too, where like, if you can crush 7 out of 9 of those, you're never going to have a bad interaction. And so that's the thing. You know, we went from having customer evals, so now it's like we have like 9 pillars of like the things that make an interaction good. And so it's, you know, again, for 3 hours, we talked about this, like slideshow presentation, like the whole thing for 3 hours. You know, it's like you realize how much goes into this.
And dude, I mean, even that is like, I think that serves as a great example. But even that, man, like the amount of like talks that you and I have had and conversations that we've had, like have passed along to other employees and systems we've put in place and checks and balances and you know, even just like the customer service evals is like we do them differently now. We've added to those. We've made them to where now even like managers are getting customer service evals to make sure that they know what the standard is to hold their employees to. So I do feel like, you know, where 2025 has been the year of continued education. I do think that we're coming out the other end, not just smarter, but we have put a boatload of work in, man.
Yeah. Well, and I think, and that's why it's so satisfying to hear like how, you know, a relatively like a new employee, as well as like, you know, one of our newer ATs, I think the newest AT potentially, maybe Mason.
I think so.
I think he's our newest AT, but it's like, again, like he was super interactive during AT training and that's like all that kind of stuff where it's just like, but to hear it from what it sounds like, it's just like, hey, like these things aren't falling on deaf ears. They're actually falling into like places that they can be implemented. And that's so important because like that is a fire driver, right? Because it's like, now, you know, you're working with Mason and you're a brand new employee and you watch Mason just crush it with an interaction and navigate one like super well. You're like, dang, I want to be, that looked fun. I want to do that.
That could be something that stokes the fire.
Absolutely. A massive one. I remember even like training someone, give self shout out here, but like training someone and going through, you know, being able to help with training during this process. I just happened to be there hanging out for the day. And they were training and going through like our customer interaction modules and kind of learning. And like one of our managers was training and doing a really good job. But it's like, hey, I wrote these fucking things. I'll be here. I'll train today, you know, whatever. And was able to kind of train them and went through like motivations and my why and like all of these different things of why I find these things to be super important, and got to like talk literally for like probably, dude, I talked for 2 hours and covered 2 modules, right? Like that kind of deal. And then right after that, the manager had gone to the bathroom. So it's just me and the trainee, and the door dinged. And I got to go up front and then show them and then like put them through that. And it was like a hugely gratifying thing too, because like was able to give like this customer really great service, like find things that made sense for them, sample like all the cool things that we try to do. But it was just like navigated. I felt like it was just like a really, really, really solid transaction. And like that customer left super stoked about what we do and everything. and walked out, and the trainee looked at me and like literally was like, holy shit. Like that was crazy. And it's like, dude, that's like what you can do if you do these things, man. It's really like all it is it's a set of like ideas and good intentions. And if you can convey all of that, then it's just like, dude, you're going to do great. Like you'll crush it with this.
Yeah. I do think that I am where 4 is, I feel like in a way 4 stores could be looked at as like, man, did we bite off more than we can chew? Should we have, stayed smaller, got our systems better and then tried to expand? I think going into store 4, we didn't know that there were weak points in our system because 3 was, and I think a big important part to this again is like the fact that we have grown as a company this year. I think it's the thing I should probably mention is like we haven't grown as much as we would have hoped, especially with opening up a 4th store. So it's like, okay, did we just take on more expenses for no reason? Did we make a bad decision? Did we bite off more than we can chew? I think that the thing that gives me confidence is I think I'd rather be sitting in a spot with 4 stores and having to and really be pushed to improve our systems as opposed to 3 and being like, if you want to get to 4, you should improve your systems because there's not a huge like driver for that. With 4, it's like we have to. It's like we got to do it if we want to continue to just stay in business, but also continue to grow. And I'll use this analogy of Ray Kroc from McDonald's was really big on trying to bite off more than he can chew. I think a lot of like ultra successful entrepreneurs, like way like a million times beyond what we're doing, have a tendency for that. And it made a lot of sense of like Ray Kroc would be like, okay, they're opening up a new location, and he'd have like executives or people on his his new location team that would run the analytics, the demographics, the population, the everything, and they're like, hey, we think that 2 registers will be enough to cover the amount of traffic we'll be seeing at this location. And he's like, man, I just really got a good feeling though about this one. I think it could be busier. Let's do 3. So they would do 3 and obviously take on more expenses. I think would have to hire more employees to be able to make sure they had enough people to run 3 registers. So they're potentially biting off more than they could chew. But it was that pressure that was like, okay, now we have 3 registers that we have to have a line for all 3. We don't have to just fill 2. We need enough customers to support 3. And I think that's what gives me confidence is I'd rather be sitting with 4 stores with like a huge fucking pressure to improve our systems if we want to keep growing, as opposed to 3 and growing with a lot less expenses, but no real pressure to adapt.
Well, and that's the thing. Like, it happens in jiu-jitsu all the time where you're like, hey, I'm super comfortable in my own gym. I know what it's like to roll with all these people. And it's just like, well, you don't know how good it is until you go and test it at a competition or something against people you don't. You know what I mean? Like, you have to put it into a situation where it is tested. Otherwise, you don't know where your holes are. And I think that's the kind of a similar thing. Obviously, you don't ever want to sign up for that kind of thing. But it's also like one of those things, too, where it's like, hey, like, the reason we opened store 4 was because we were comfortable at 3.
Yeah.
And it's one of those things where we looked at our systems and we looked at our things and we said, these are good enough for 4 stores. And then we got to 4 stores and we go, hey, here's what we got to fix. We got to fix this. We got to fix this. We got to fix this. And it's like, cool. We would have not ever known that.
Exactly. We wouldn't know what to fix if we were told you got to make your systems more robust to be able to support.
There's no way to test it besides putting it through the ringer.
Exactly. No, I think that's a good point.
Yeah. And I think it's one of those things that, while you said, it's caused some stress and, obviously not all, like plenty of good times too, but it is one of those things where I'm with you. I'd rather be sitting here going like, all right, how do we fill up another line?
Yeah. This has been a fun episode.
It has been. Went by quick.
Sweet. Yeah.
That's
very quick. Yeah.
83.
Episode 83.
83.
We've got Alyssa hanging out with us in the background. it's a bourbon engine. Ain't doing so hot, so we're sharing a vehicle right now. So yeah, we gotta go get Riley and head home. So I should have drank more having a DD tonight. So. I gotta get a picture with you with your Santa hat on.
Oh, just me?
Yeah, with my story.
Santa.
You know the deal.
I hear those labels tingling, tingling too. Appreciate everybody listening. No, it's a short and sweet one, but I feel like there's a lot of good stuff we talked about. I really do. Feel, even for me, it's got my mind like kind of gears turning on like more stuff to kind of focus on. And I think some stuff that will continue to improve this.
You brought up some ideas and things that I hadn't necessarily thought about. So yeah, this was good.
Sweet.
Merry Christmas, everybody.
Come shop at Triad.
And Happy New Year.